Peppercorn sauce is one of my favorites, so I've made it high protein, macro friendly, served with steak, greens, and crispy potatoes. It comes together in about 40 minutes, setting yourself up for the week. It tastes incredible and it is perfect for storing and reheating. This is everything we're going to need for today's recipe. First things first, we're going to need 700 grams or 1.5 pounds of baby or chat potatoes. These can be sliced in half and then in half again, and you can leave them about this size or you can chop them up even smaller. That choice is all yours. With whichever way you slice them, just make sure they're all the same size. That way everything is going to cook at the same time. So we'll just go through and chop the rest of these potatoes up, add them all into a bowl, and you can soak these in cold water for a little bit to rinse off any surface starch if you like to do that. Add in 1 teaspoon of dried thyme and half a teaspoon of dried rosemary. Add in a pinch of salt, pinch of cracked black pepper, and 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Make sure your hands are clean and then just mix all of this around. You can add other spices and herbs to this if you like, but I like the thyme and rosemary. It's just a nice little fragrant, little bit floral potato mix. All we're looking for is something that looks like this. Now there's 2 different ways you can cook these. You can either do it in the oven or in an air fryer, which is what I'm doing. So I'm going to add these into my basket. And with the air fryer, it's 190 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 18 to 20 minutes. And if you want to do these in the oven, 200 degrees Celsius or 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 to 25 minutes or until they're crisp and golden, and just mix them around halfway through. As far as the rest of the recipe goes, we're going to need 1 brown or yellow onion on the smaller side. Just slice it in half, peel it, and then just make sure you save any of the scraps for a stock. We'll go through and then dice this up into small pieces. Traditionally, I would use a shallot or shallot for this, but I'm going to be using a small brown or yellow onion. Just makes it a lot easier and a lot more accessible because they can be quite expensive. Make sure you trim off any excess flesh from around that root, and these root pieces can also be saved for a stock. Crush and mince 2 cloves of garlic. Just go through and roughly chop, getting into those nice small to medium sized pieces. You can also grate it for this recipe, that's not a problem. But like I always say, I like those nice nutty pieces on the larger pieces of the garlic. Also, if you like a little bit extra garlic, 2 or even 4 cloves of garlic is fantastic in this recipe. As a side, I have 150 grams or 5.3 ounces of kale. You can use any green of your choice, but for this, what I'm going to do is just remove the leaves from that stem. You can either cut it off or you can pick it off. Choice is all yours. And if you don't like kale or have never had good kale, I recommend giving this a try for what we're about to do. What I'm going to do is cook it in the steak juices. It has an incredible flavor. Once you have it picked from the stems, just make sure you go through and tear apart any large leaves, making sure they're all the same size. And you can pre-blanch this if you prefer to, but I'm going to cook it as it is. Last but not least is the steak. I'm doing this last, so we only have to clean our chopping board once, unless you have separate chopping boards for different applications. This is 850 grams or 1.8 pounds of rump steak, but you can use any lean steak of your choice. All we need to do is go through and slice this into thin strips. To make it a little bit easier on yourself, I have actually placed this in the freezer for about 30 minutes. It's just going to firm up and keep the steak straight. That way we can get those nice consistent pieces all over. We also want to cut this against the grain. That way we break up the muscle fibers and get this steak as lean and as tender as possible. So with all of that done, add the steak into a large mixing bowl. Season to taste with salt. And we're not going to add any cracked black pepper because the sauce is quite peppery anyway. And all we need to do is mix this around. And then we're ready to cook. Now in a pan over a high heat, add in about 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil. And when that's nice and hot, we can add in our steak, but do this in batches to avoid overcrowding the pan. Spread it out a little bit so it's not all stuck together or sitting on top of one another. And then sear this for about 2 minutes, just until it's nice and golden brown and you're that nice crust on the steak. If the pan's not hot enough, it will just end up stewing in its own juices. If you like the steak more cooked, of course, cook the steak for longer. Just do it exactly how you like it. But just take into consideration that this is a meal prep video and they will be reheated. So if you overcook them now, they're going to be severely overcooked when you reheat them. So with that done, I'm going to remove this and then repeat with the other batch. With the steak out of the way, make sure you leave some of those steak juices in that pan, and we're going to get this back up to a nice medium-high heat. Add in another 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil, and this time we're going to add in all of that kale. I like to add in some sea salt flakes, a little bit of cracked black pepper, and then saute this for about 2 to 3 minutes, just until it wilts down and picks up all of that flavor left behind from the steak. Like I said, when preparing this, you can blanch it beforehand, but for this type of recipe, it's not really needed. And if you don't really like kale, I do highly recommend you try this version of it. It's absolutely delicious. Now, once this is slightly wilted down, it's picked up all of that flavor, I'm just going to add in about a tablespoon of water, and then chuck on a lid and allow this to steam. And that water is also going to deglaze the pan, ripping up all of that flavor, allowing that kale to soak it all up. This only needs about a minute, so we'll remove that lid, give it another quick stir around, And once you have this nice wilted kale, picked up all of that flavour, we can turn this off the heat and remove it from the stove top. Last but not least, same pan yet again. It's going to be nice and easy on the dishes. Place this over a medium-high heat. Add in 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, and then add in our diced onion. Add in a pinch of salt, and saute for about 2 to 3 minutes. Again, picking up any leftover flavour that might be left in the pan. Once the onion's nice and golden brown, it's been cooking for about 2 to 3 minutes, we can add in the garlic. And continue cooking for a further 1 minute, just mixing it around regularly. That way nothing will burn. We're going to get that nice nutty, fragrant flavour on the garlic. Next is the peppercorns, green and black, or black if you've decided to use just one. Mix it around, make sure nothing's clumped up, and toast these for about 30 seconds. Just make sure you don't breathe it all in because it can choke you out. Once toasted, we've got half a cup or 125 millilitres of beef stock. Mix this around, let it rip up any of that flavour, deglaze the pan. We're going to reduce this down for about 2 minutes. This is going to increase depth in our sauce, as well as give it a really beautiful flavour. Now for the sauce, we can either use light cooking cream or high protein yogurt. If you've decided to use high protein yogurt, turn this off the heat now and then add it in after, otherwise it will split. But I'm going to be using light cooking cream, so we can add that in. Just make sure you scrape it all in there. Mix this around and we're going to let this reduce down for a further 2 to 3 minutes or until nice and thick. If you've used yogurt, all we need to do is mix it around until everything is combined. Once you have a nice thick sauce and you can run a spatula through it and it separates either side, that is exactly the consistency we want. I'm going to turn this off the heat. Add in 1 teaspoon or 5 millilitres of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm also going to add in all of the steak and resting juices. All we need to do now is mix everything together. Make sure everything is coated. If you like the sauce extremely thick, you can just place this back over a high heat and cook it down until everything is reduced and is completely covering. But I'm going to leave a little bit of sauce, that way when we portion these out, we can drizzle it over at the end. What you should have is something that looks like this. So as far as serving up goes, this makes 5 portions. We'll start with the crispy potatoes on one side, and the size of the container I'm using is 750 millilitres. We'll then add in our steak on the opposite side, and you can portion these out however you like. You don't have to follow what I'm doing. If you like to divide everything evenly by 5, you can do that, or you can weigh everything and divide it by 5 that way. In the middle, we'll then use our kale just to split them up, and we're going to have some sauce left over, so what we can do is spoon that over our steak. These will last 4 days in the fridge and 3 months in the freezer. Just let them cool down for about 15 to 20 minutes and then we can place on the lids. Your best bet's going to be a microwave as well to reheat them. Just do it for about 3 minutes until it's nice and hot in the center. So that leaves us with our creamy peppercorn steak, the greens that are cooked in the steak juices, and our crispy potatoes. There is only one thing left to do, and that is, of course, we can then dig in. Incredible combination, and that sauce is just perfect.